Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I knew I was in trouble the second Tiffany Thompson looked at my boots like they were tracking manure. "Please leave them outside," she said, all polite poison, like I was a cable guy who overstayed his welcome. I nodded, kicked them off by the door, and stepped into the kind of house that smells like waxed wood and lemon polish. I was 19. Name's Zane Miller. Grew up outside Emporia, Kansas. Raised on a foster farm with more cows than people. That winter had been dry and mean. I left with Rafe Holloway the second we could scrape enough gas money to get to the city. He landed a fry cook job at a highway stop. I picked up busser shifts at a diner off exit 47. Then Jasmine Thompson walked in. Thursdays mostly, always with her college crowd. Blonde waves, smile like a dare, and a gold watch I swear cost more than my whole first truck. We got to talking after I topped off her coffee a few times, and 2 weekends later, we were walking past storefronts like the city owed us something. By late November, I proposed under the diner's string lights with a plain silver band. She said yes. Kissed me like home wasn't a place, just a person. Before we start, share in the comments. How's your day going, and where you're joining from? Thanks, and let's continue. A week later, she brought up her parents' place, said we could stay there just for a few weeks until we figured out next steps. I said okay. Figured it would save us some rent. Figured love counted for something. First night in, I met the lawn before I met the house. That yard was so wide, the mailbox had its own zip code. The house itself was stone, tall, symmetrical, looked like it judged you before you even got to the porch. And I swear, Tiffany opened the door like someone had just spit on her rug. Dinner was salmon with skin and judgment. Tiffany asked me about my prospects with that tight little smile people use before saying something awful. I said I was still at the diner. She said, like that explained everything wrong with the world. The next morning, Jasmine told me I didn't need to go back to work, said we should focus on bigger plans, maybe look into real estate or trade schools, just like that. 7-minute talk, sunny patio, nice little squeeze of the hand. I quit that afternoon. What I didn't see then, but I see it clear now, was how quick her we turned into he when her mom was around. Tiffany never raised her voice. She just poked and prodded like she was testing fruit. Said my laugh carried too far. Asked if I owned a belt that wasn't canvas. Noticed I washed dishes, like someone who's never had glassware. Jasmine didn't fight back. She just changed the subject. Every time, and every time it chipped something off me. One night, I caught them whispering in the hallway. Jasmine looked back at me once, just once, didn't say a thing. After 3 weeks, I stopped feeling like I lived there. More like I was borrowing air. Every noise I made sounded too loud. I started timing my showers to no one else's schedule, folded my shirts tight and neat like it had earned me grace. I still told myself to be grateful. Free roof, warm bed, but you can't outthank contempt. It's not a fair fight. Last straw was a casual dinner. Just pasta and soft jazz. Tiffany asked if I'd thought about life insurance, in case you ever plan to be responsible. Jasmine laughed, not at me, just out loud, like she didn't notice I'd gone silent. I stood up, pushed the chair in slow, said I was going out to get some air. I came back inside after that breath of air because I still believed leaving once didn't mean leaving for good. The house was quiet in the way that lets you know people are listening anyway. Next morning, Tiffany left a printed job listing right in the middle of the kitchen counter, weighted down with a crystal paperweight like it was a museum piece. Junior consultant with Polish, it said in bold. When I picked it up, she smiled and told me not to be offended because we all have our lanes, and it was important to know which ones fit us best. I set the paper back down flat and kept my mouth shut, which felt like swallowing glass. I tried pride next, folded up the cash I had left from my last diner check and offered to pay rent, real rent, the kind grown men pay without being asked. Tiffany took the money, looked at it like it might stain her fingers, and slid it back across the island. She said I could contribute by not causing friction, like friction was a hobby I'd picked up on purpose. Jasmine stood there twisting her ring, not looking at either of us. and I put the 20s back in my wallet slower than I needed to. Days shifted without anyone announcing it. Jasmine started picking late classes, then later friends, then dinners that ran past midnight. I stayed behind with their dog, a big quiet thing that leaned against my leg like it knew better than to ask questions. I ate cherries from a grocery bowl one at a time, checking the room between bites like someone might tell me they were decorative. The house had rules that never got written down, and I kept breaking them just by existing. One night I grilled chicken because nobody said not to. I kept the flame low, flipped it careful, thought I'd done okay. Tiffany took one look, pressed a hand to her forehead, and whispered about her blood pressure like she was on a stage. Jasmine said, "Mom, it's fine. It's just smoky." And Tiffany closed her eyes like she'd been struck. The rest of the meal passed in tight silence, forks scraping, the dog sent away. Jasmine didn't meet my eyes again. The next evening, she came into the guest room with a cardboard box and a roll of tape. Her voice stayed low, like she was afraid the walls would hear. "We rushed this," she said, and didn't say my name. "She packed my shirts the way you wrap a lamp you don't like but can't throw away, careful but distant, patting the corners so nothing broke, but nothing stayed close." I asked if we were talking or deciding, and she said she needed space right now, which meant she needed me gone. I stood on the curb with a duffel bag, a knotted trash bag, and $84 counted twice to make sure it was still real. The house lights stayed on behind me, bright and warm, like nothing had changed. I tried to stand straight, tried to look like a guy who chose to leave instead of a guy who got pushed. A cab slowed, then stopped. The driver looked at my bags, then my face, and said, "Son, I'll get you someplace safe." I didn't argue. I just got in. He dropped me at a 2-story motel a few miles down, beige paint peeling, vacancy sign flickering like a bad eye that couldn't close. The night clerk pointed me toward the office door and said I should talk to Harvey Phillips if I needed work. Harvey sized me up without standing, eyes quick, smile thin. He smelled weakness the way some people smell rain. He said I could do desk and handyman work for $11.25 an hour, sleep on a bunk off the laundry, and follow simple rules. Answer phones, mop, fix what you can, don't make decisions, he said, tapping the desk to count them. I took it because I didn't have the room to be picky. The bunk rattled when the dryers kicked on, and my clothes always smelled like soap I didn't choose. Harvey hovered. He corrected me in front of guests, took credit for fixes I made, and reminded me who signed the checks even when he didn't have to. I kept my head down and did the work, learned which pipes whined and which doors stuck, learned the rhythm of late arrivals and early checkouts. By the third day, I noticed the towels. Harvey counted them like they were gold coins, logged numbers with a stubby pencil, frowned at shortages. Then I saw him loading his trunk after shift, white bundles tucked under a tarp like contraband. I watched from the side door, said nothing, and kept mopping until the floor shined and his car disappeared down the road. New Year's week came in swinging. Sideways snow, windshield ice that stuck no matter how hot the defrost, and a wind so sharp it rattled my gums. Most rooms stayed empty, and the lobby buzzed like a forgotten fish tank. Lights on, nothing moving. I was on solo swing again. Harvey liked to disappear on holidays, to audit from home, whatever that meant. I ran front desk and janitorial until my ears rang from silence. Near midnight, the intercom clicked on. Static, then a voice thin as a reed. "Please." I'm freezing. What got me wasn't just the words. It was the second voice underneath. Something in me that said, "Stay decent." I still don't know what that means exactly, but I buzzed her in. She came in bent against the wind, soaked to the bone, scarf wrapped where a hat should have been. Belly round under a winter coat 2 sizes too thin. Her hands trembled around a tote bag with one strap ripped, and she looked at me like she was trying not to cry. "Alice," she said. "Alice Morgan." I led her toward the side heater and grabbed a clean towel off the utility shelf. She didn't ask for anything, just sat there trying to warm her hands. I offered a bottle of water and a pack of saltines I kept behind the counter, and she took them like they were diamonds. We didn't talk for a few minutes. She needed that silence. Then it came out in pieces. She grew up in the foster system, bounced between group homes, aged out at 18 without so much as a card from anyone. She said she'd been told her whole life that her parents didn't want her, that the baby's father disappeared the second she told him. A few days back, she almost got hit by a car walking along the shoulder near the shelter. Now she was just trying to stay dry and upright until morning. Hallways, parking decks, any place without snow on the ground. "You can't sleep out there," I said, already knowing I'd break rules for her. "I don't want trouble," she said. "Just heat. For an hour. I'll leave before dawn." We sat in the lobby, heater humming, her feet steaming through wet socks. 15 minutes later, the front door banged open. Harvey. "Happy audit," I muttered, standing up quick. He didn't even look at me. His eyes went straight to Alice. "What's this?" "She's freezing. It's 20 below. I let her in to warm up." "This is not a shelter, kid," he snapped, walking straight toward her. "Get up. You gotta go." "She's pregnant, Harvey. Come on." He ignored me, grabbed the towel from her lap and tossed it onto the desk like it had offended him. "Not our problem. You want to help strays? Do it on your own time." Alice started standing. Her boots scraped the tile. I can still hear it. He waved his clipboard like it proved something and marched out for his usual midnight smoke. I watched him go, counted to 20, then opened the side entrance and called her back. "My bunk's off the laundry room," I told her. "You take the mattress. I'll take the floor." She shook her head, near tears again. "I can't let you—" But I was already walking, already hauling the extra blanket off the shelf and tossing her my hoodie. "You're not freezing to death because of some idiot with a key card." We moved fast, quiet. I laid out what little I had: old pillow, camp blanket, clean pair of socks. She curled up on the bunk like someone afraid of taking up too much space. The baby didn't kick, but I could see the pressure through her coat. She whispered thank you as I shut off the lamp, then turned to face the wall. I slept on a folded towel. At 6 sharp, Harvey burst in like a landlord in a bad sitcom. Door open, clipboard swinging. "I knew it," he hissed, like he caught me robbing the safe. I stood up and moved between him and the bunk. "She's leaving right now. I just gave her a place to rest. That's it." He threw a cardboard box on the counter with my name written in red marker. "You're done. Pack up. Don't touch the guest towels. Here's half your paycheck. You're a liability." I didn't fight. No point. I shoved my things into the bag, helped Alice gather hers, and walked her out to the front drive. My hands were stiff, pockets almost empty, but I flagged the next cab that passed. The driver didn't blink at the scene. Pregnant girl, duffel bag, guy in a thin hoodie. Just nodded and said, "Where to?" "County Hospital," I told him. "The one that takes walk-ins." Ride was quiet. I could feel Alice shaking beside me. Not just from the cold. This was the kind of tired you can't fix with sleep. At the ER entrance, I paid the fare with my last bills. $68 flat, counting the tip. She tried to hand back a $5 she had crumpled in her pocket. I closed her fingers around it and shook my head. I handed her my knit hat. Told her it wasn't much, but it was warm. She laughed once, soft and breathless. "I'll never forget this," she said. "You don't have to," I told her. "Just get inside." I waited outside the doors until the intake nurse came around the corner. She looked at Alice, then at me, and said, "We've got her." I didn't have a plan after that, but walking away I knew one thing without question. It was the best decision I ever made. I hadn't unpacked more than a week's worth of clothes in that rented room, just enough to keep the smell of detergent from turning sour. It had a rusted back porch and a heater that whined like it was owed something. 13 days after walking Alice into the ER, I was stuffing my jeans into a duffel, telling Rafe over the phone I'd catch the 5:15 and head home. My half of the rent was prepaid. Harvey's half paycheck was the only reason I had a key in the first place. My future was not. That's when the black SUV rolled up slow outside the porch. I peeked through the blinds, ready to ignore a salesman or a repo guy, when the back door opened and Alice stepped out. Different coat, same eyes. I met her halfway down the walk. She looked rested, not fully, but like someone had finally handed her a roof and a reason to believe in it. Her voice didn't shake. "You got me to the right hospital," she said. "They kept me, and the father I never knew, he found me there." I didn't know what to say. I just kept my hands in my pockets and nodded once. "His name's Gregory Morgan," she went on, voice low, like it still didn't seem real. "The guy with the EV company, the charging network, the one on billboards. You've seen them." "Yeah," I said. "My uncle used to curse his name every time his truck stalled near one of those chargers." Alice smiled for half a second. Then she pulled a photo from her pocket. It was folded neat and had that new paper gloss. A baby, red-faced and blinking, swaddled in hospital blue. "This is Tommy," she said. "Born the morning after I got there." I took the photo. My fingers left a smudge, but she didn't mind. She kept talking. Gregory's people had alerts with area hospitals. Risk management matched my name when I signed the intake forms. They called in a field investigator who brought Gregory the same day. He was already sick, fighting something. But when he saw me, he just stopped what he was doing. Said my name like it was the answer to a question he asked 20 years ago. I didn't know where to look. Her eyes were full, voice steady, like the ground beneath her finally held. "I'm not here for charity," she said, "but I owe you. You got me there. So, here's the deal." She stepped aside, and a man in a dark suit came around the front of the SUV. Neat haircut, quiet eyes, moved like someone used to people getting out of his way. "Silas Boone," he said. "Driver, logistics, personal aid to Mr. Morgan." He held out a slim folder. "Mr. Morgan's holding company has signed a 90-day management agreement with the property known as Cardinal Lodge," he said. "Effective immediately. Transitional operations under private oversight. Mr. Morgan would like you to run it. You'll have a controller watching the books and a property manager on call." I opened the folder. Actual letterhead. Signatures. Notarized pages. My name printed clean in black ink. Silas continued like this was just another Tuesday. "Your responsibilities include floor management, staff supervision, and maintaining honest operational integrity. You'll report to both the controller and the property manager during the 90-day window. After that, assuming performance benchmarks are met, ownership options may be discussed." I looked at Alice. "He didn't want your name," she said. "Didn't even ask. Just said, someone decent kept her alive. Let's make sure he lands on his feet. I told him you were more than decent, and I asked if we could give you the first shot." I could still feel the threadbare towel from the motel bunk in my duffel. Could still taste the saltines. 2 days later, I had a badge with manager on it and a master key that didn't jiggle in the lock. The new sign order came in by courier. Fresh lettering, a modern look, simple and clean. I hung it myself, hammer steady, hands not quite shaking. Then I called Harvey into the office. He came in slow, trying for smug but landing somewhere between confused and pale. I slid the folder across the desk. 90-day management, I said. "I'm under contract." "You're not." He chuckled once, weak. "You think you can—" "Hand over your badge." He hesitated. "Now." Harvey pulled it off his belt and set it down. I opened the linen inventory spreadsheet and pointed to 3 flagged entries. "We'll be reconciling this. Controller's already reviewed last month's supply chain. You got anything else in your trunk? Now's the time." His face dropped like the air left his chest. No speech, no scene. He just left. By end of day, the staff had been briefed. Silas stood near the lobby, silent as a pillar, making sure everything stayed civil. I cleaned out Harvey's office and found a stash of marked-up invoices, half a pack of poker chips, and a dented flask behind the file cabinet. Rafe came in that night with his tool belt slung low and a cook's apron balled under one arm. I met him in the break room with a handshake and a job title. "You're kitchen lead and maintenance wrangler," I told him. "Pay's still low, but dignity's part of the benefits." He nodded. "Only one rule? No nickel and diming people who are cold." He grinned. "Then we're good." First thing I did after Harvey was gone was print out a blank floor map and tape it to the break room fridge. I used graph paper, sharp pencil, no labels at first. I wanted to learn the building like a body, where it creaked, where it clogged, which parts needed more attention than they asked for. I mapped room numbers, busted fixtures, vents that ran hot when they shouldn't, and doors that didn't catch on the first pull. I marked every complaint from the guest book and lined them up against the actual layout. It started to make sense, like a puzzle no one had bothered solving. Then I took a sledgehammer to the vending alcove outside room 24. It had been half-shuttered for months, machine unplugged, mice droppings under the snack shelf. I knocked it clean, patched the drywall, and turned the space into a locked supply cabinet for overnight staff, extra bedding, backup bulbs, aspirin packets. Opal, the part-time desk clerk who'd been covering nights, called it smart, and I told her it was just common sense. She came on full-time the following week, officially listed as nursery care and staff support. We gave her a corner room on the first floor and set up Tommy's crib near the window. She had a quiet way about her, slow to speak, always watching, arms like anchors. I started checking in every morning and again before my shift ended, just to see the kid breathing steady, hear her hum whatever old song she knew from back when radio still ruled kitchens. Silas kept parking outside on my late nights. Never explained it. Didn't need to. Just leaned against the SUV sometimes, nodding once if I looked his way. Made people behave. Made me sleep easier too. Alice stopped by 3-4 times a week with forms. Insurance binders, vendor bids, payroll policy templates, stuff written in small fonts on thick paper meant to confuse regular people. But I found out something funny. I liked it. Paper didn't lie. Paper told you where the cracks were. I started keeping a binder with color-coded tabs and wrote questions down before each check-in. Every Tuesday and Friday I had standing calls with the controller and the property manager. We reviewed cash flow, CapEx reports, and incident logs. Both of them knew their stuff. One was a hawk, the other more relaxed, but neither tried to talk down to me. We kept things clean, professional. Me and Alice didn't flirt, didn't fish, didn't crowd each other's space. But we had this rhythm, both of us saying good call at the same time or reaching for the same highlighter during a walkthrough. Then the inspector came. He walked in like he owned the place. Mid-50s, peppermint breath, clipboard thicker than it needed to be. Said he was there for a random compliance review, even though the timing felt anything but. Half his list was nonsense, non-standard signage, paint discoloration near fire doors, questionable floor slope near the boiler room. He circled the elevator call button like it had committed a felony. After 30 minutes of walking and smirking, he dropped the line. "If you want to keep this quiet," he said, "you could consider an expedited correction fee. $900, cash." I don't write that part down. I stared at him for a long second. Not angry, just calculating. "We'll pass," I said, "and post our records on the lobby wall by morning. Come back and see for yourself." He shrugged. "Suit yourself." He left behind a thick report and the scent of cheap cologne mixed with nerves. I brought the paper to the office and scanned the whole thing into the system. Then I called Rafe. "Bad?" he asked. "It's political," I said. "They want me rattled." He stayed late. We worked through the whole night, me, Rafe, and Opal for the early stuff. We replaced 4 exit bulbs, fixed 2 stairwell treads, relabeled the entire breaker map, and mounted updated safety signage from the code packet I'd pulled off the city website. Around 2 in the morning, Rafe called out from the office. "Hey, come look at this!" He'd cracked into a burner email that had pushed the inspector tip-off to the city hotline. The number linked back to a tennis buddy of Tiffany Thompson, same woman who made me leave my boots outside and called my laugh abrasive. And that number? Same one that showed up on an event vendor invoice 2 days before the inspector walked in. "Coincidence?" Rafe asked. "Nope," I said. "It's a pattern. I printed the whole thread, stapled the logs, and filed it in the general legal binder Gregory's team had set up. The motive was clear as glass. Rattle my post, bruise my record, make it easier for Jasmine to forget what it cost to push me out, maybe even pull me back in where they could manage me. But they didn't know how stubborn a guy gets when someone comes for his floor. By 7 a.m., the inspector returned for the recheck. We didn't offer him coffee, just handed him the documented fixes, complete with timestamps and staff initials. He said nothing. Walked the building again, slower this time, probably hoping we'd missed something. We hadn't. "You're clear," he muttered, signing the bottom of his form like it hurt. He didn't wait for a thank you. We didn't give him one. That afternoon I was sitting in the break room rewriting the maintenance cycle when Alice came in with a contract folder under her arm. "You look like you haven't slept," she said. "I haven't," I told her. "We passed the re-inspection." "I heard." She paused. "I also heard you hung that violation report in the lobby with a note that said, 'Resolved. Come see for yourself.'" "People like receipts," I said. Then she laughed, one of those real, unguarded laughs that put air back in your chest. "Remind me not to argue with you in front of a whiteboard," she said. I grinned. "Only fair warning I'll give." The night after the re-inspection, Gregory invited me to his place for supper. Said it casual over the phone, like it wasn't a big deal, but I knew better. The man didn't do anything without intention. When I showed up, the table was already set. 2 plates, cloth napkins, brown rice, grilled fish, lemon slices fanned out like someone had practiced. It was a meal you make when time matters more than taste. A meal that says, "I'm still here, but I'm counting the days." We sat across from each other in a kitchen that had probably seen more lawyers than recipes. First few minutes were just chewing and weather talk. Then I caught him watching my chest, not in a weird way, just focused. I looked down. My shirt had slipped open a bit and the locket was showing. Same one I'd worn since I was 2. An old brass oval on a plain chain. Nothing fancy. My foster mom told me it had belonged to Kimberly Hart, my birth mother. Said I'd had it on when they picked me up from county custody. Gregory set his fork down. "Can I see that?" he asked. I hesitated, then unclasped it and slid it across the table. The hinge stuck like always, but when it popped, something in him just stopped. He stared at the photo inside. Black and white young woman, soft face, eyes full of plans. His face shifted, not shocked, not confused, just still. "I knew Kimberly," he said. "Back in school. We were close for a while. She transferred out sophomore year. Never knew what happened to her after." Rafe would have cracked some line about my luck with women. I just sat there with my hands flat against the table, breath held. Gregory turned the photo toward the light. She dated someone else after me. Pre-law kid, sharp dresser. But we kept in touch for a little while. "If you're her son, then we might have a problem," I finished. He nodded once. No panic, no denial. Just math. Cold and necessary. We cleared the dishes in silence. He poured decaf like we were at a diner booth, then said, "I'll call the lab first thing. I'll cover the rush. We need to know. Now." I didn't argue. There was nothing else to say. "If I am yours," I said, "then I'll walk away from Alice. No hesitation. And if you're not?" I looked him in the eye. "Then I don't see a reason to walk." We sat with that for a beat. The weight of it. The kind of weight that doesn't raise its voice. Gregory ran a hand through his thinning hair and leaned back. "She told me what you did, Alice, about the motel, the ride, the money. My investigator confirmed all of it." I nodded, still not sure where this was going. He kept talking. "I didn't find her first. Lenore and Ronan did." My stomach went cold. "They were there before you?" "Not at the hospital, but before that. They caught wind of something. Maybe from a contact in family court, maybe from a gossip thread. Doesn't matter now. What matters is they didn't want me to know. Ronan especially. That boy's been chewing glass ever since I made him step aside in the trust rebalancing. Your ex-wife leaned on a notary, didn't she? Yeah, tried to pull copies of my living will, pushed for early distributions, used Ronan like a crowbar. I exhaled through my nose. And the alley? Gregory paused. He didn't look at me when he spoke. Silas was the one who told me. They didn't hit Alice, just tried to scare her. A gray coupe, no plates, slow roll up the curb, one guy with a crosshatch scar behind his ear, two more on foot, all hooded. Same car showed up near the clinic the week before. Same posture. Intimidation, not contact. Why wasn't it in the news? Because money doesn't like headlines. We filed internal reports. Hospital security logged the license plate attempt and filed a HIPAA complaint when one of the men tried to ask a nurse about her schedule. I swallowed hard. Silas saw one of them? Ronan's old college roommate, known history of freelance work. He didn't touch her, but he was near the nurse's station long enough to raise flags. It was enough for the detective to connect dots. I leaned back in my chair. The air felt thin. She okay? I asked. Gregory nodded. She's strong, but she's scared, and she doesn't know we're doing the test. I want to keep it that way until we're sure. I nodded. Me too. He stood, then hesitated, and laid a hand on my shoulder. Not heavy, not showy, just weight. It stayed there for a second longer than needed. I don't say things I don't mean, he said. If you turn out to be my son, I'll do right by you. But either way, I already owe you for protecting Alice when I couldn't. I didn't trust my voice. I just picked up the locket and reclasped it. Alice was standing in the hallway when I left. She wasn't listening, wasn't spying, just holding Tommy and watching the front window like the world was about to shift again. She smiled when she saw me. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Gregory just wanted to go over some vendor approvals. Told me you're switching medical carriers for staff. We are, she said. Opal needed pediatric add-ons. Silas found a better plan. I nodded. Sounds good. Neither of us mentioned the test. Not yet. But when I stepped out into the cold, the locket was still warm against my chest. 2 days later, the results came in. Manila envelope, certified delivery, label stamped from a private lab out of Ohio. Gregory opened it first, hands steady but eyes tired. He scanned the page, then passed it to me without a word. Not father, not son, completely clean, top to bottom. Nobody said anything for a solid minute. Not because we didn't believe the paper. The seal alone looked like something from a courtroom. We just needed a second to let the air settle in the room. Sometimes relief doesn't crash in. It creeps, soft and sure, like a train you almost missed but didn't. Gregory let out a breath that sounded older than him. Alice had Tommy on her shoulder, and even the baby stopped squirming for a moment. I folded the paper and handed it back. Well, Gregory said finally, now you know where the door is, and where it isn't. I nodded. Appreciate you making it fast. That was the least I could do. We didn't hug. Didn't need to. That evening, Alice asked if I wanted to walk. 4 blocks down to the river path and back. Cold air, steady sidewalk, headlights humming in the background. We didn't talk about the test. We didn't talk about anything big. She said, eggs are up to $4 a dozen now. I said, Tommy only sleeps 47 minutes at a time. She nodded like that tracked with her data. We didn't hold hands at first, just walked side by side like two people who'd already chosen a direction and didn't need to argue it anymore. The hotel was full that weekend. Something about a youth sports tournament and a nearby wedding, plus word was starting to spread. Rafe had cobbled together a website on his busted laptop, cracked hinge, battery held in with duct tape, and somehow it still ran smoother than most big chain portals. He listed the rates, amenities, local diner recommendations, and a big header that read, not fancy, but honest. That line got copied to a dozen reviews in the first week. Our coffee got mentions too, real mentions. People said it tastes like someone meant it, or had depth. One guy even said it reminded him of a road trip that didn't go wrong. That one stuck with me. I tightened our listings policy. No anonymous reviews, no vendors without verified billing addresses. Every supply invoice got scanned, backed up, and spot-checked. I asked Opal to keep an eye on scheduling gaps too. Anything that might look like favoritism or waste. She caught on fast. One morning, Opal mentioned her sister's hospital bill, $1,740 and climbing, and it stuck with me all shift. That night, I pulled Rafe into the office and told him we were setting up an envelope system. Tipped vendors could round down or pitch in, and all of us on payroll could chip from overtime or break cash. First week we raised $812, mostly change, small bills, leftover vendor credits, and one anonymous envelope with a single $100 bill inside. I took my foster parents out the following Sunday. Family place off Route 9, plastic menus, green booths, smells like grease and comfort. Dad Miller looked me over and said, "You look tired and proud. That's a harvest face." "Feels like it," I said. They didn't ask about the motel or Alice, just sat with me like they always had. Present, quiet, unshakable. I wore the locket still. Not because I needed the mystery solved, it already was, but because it came from the only woman who gave me life and left something behind to prove it. Kimberly Hart might not have stayed, but she mattered. And a mother is still a mother, even if the world forgets to make room. Alice called later that week and asked if I could meet her at the store. "What for?" I asked. "Stroller shopping," she said. "Silas said we need a model that folds one-handed in the rain." I laughed. "That's oddly specific." "Exactly. Come help." We met in the baby aisle, cart already half full with wipes, bibs, and a rattle that looked like a steering wheel. I grabbed a red and black model off the test rack and tried folding it. It fought back. "That's not it," she said, watching me wrestle the thing. "Definitely not it," I agreed. We found one that collapsed like a beach chair and weighed less than Tommy's diaper bag. She nodded. "This one wins." "Back seat or trunk?" I asked. "Both," she said, "depending on how messy the day's been." We walked back to the hardware store parking lot without really noticing the distance. Outside, the wind kicked up a little, and I felt her hand brush against mine. Neither of us pulled away. Next thing I knew, we were holding hands. No big gesture, no lean-in kiss, just fingers laced between hardware shopping and loading a stroller box into the SUV. Felt like breathing. Like the kind of thing you forget how much you need until it shows up quiet and correct. I looked at her once, really looked, and she smiled like it was no surprise at all. The night of the gala, I wore the only decent jacket I owned. Navy, one button, a little tight in the shoulders but clean. Alice wore a deep green dress that caught light like it was born for it. Gregory looked sharp in a tailored charcoal suit, one step slower than usual, but holding himself like a man who'd decided to stay alive longer than they told him he could. The event was a fundraiser for cancer care. Silent auction, art donations, speeches from doctors who used words soft enough to avoid scaring donors. It was held in one of those glass-paneled downtown buildings with fake plants in real dirt and waiters who said, "still" or "sparkling" like it mattered. The quiches were the size of bottle caps. I hadn't eaten since lunch, and all I wanted was a burger. We were standing by the exhibit wall, picking between two landscape paintings, one of a crumbling barn in sunset light, the other a row of beach cottages with doors the color of sherbet, when I heard her voice. "Now this is tasteful," Tiffany said, dragging the word like she had to kill it herself. I turned. Jasmine stood next to her, thinner than I remembered, lips done up too red for her skin tone, fingers gripping her clutch like it might float off without her. She looked at me like she was near a broken window and trying to guess if it had been her fault. Tiffany's eyes moved down me, then back up. Not a word yet, just calculation. I felt Alice shift beside me. "We're doing fine, thanks," she said, voice calm and soft as felt. "It's good to see you. Are you supporting the cancer initiative tonight? Tiffany blinked, caught between offense and confusion. Jasmine whispered, "Hi, Zane," almost like she wasn't supposed to. "Hi, Jasmine," I said. I didn't move closer. Gregory approached just in time, greeted them both like they were neighbors at a mailbox. Brief nods, flat tone. Then he excused himself to speak with a donor on the far end of the gallery. You could tell it took practice to be that civil with people who had tried to erase your daughter from existence. Alice didn't falter. She asked Tiffany which artist she liked, listened to her answer like it mattered, then turned the talk toward the charity again. And the more generous Alice got, the smaller Tiffany seemed. It wasn't loud, it was elegant, and it was effective. Off to the side, near the drinks table, I spotted Ronan Vale. He had the kind of haircut that screamed legacy money, and a jawline he never earned. He was laughing too loud at something no one had said. His mother, Lenore, stood beside a board member, air-kissing both cheeks like it was a runway show. Her pearls looked older than the carpet under our feet. Security clocked them too. One of the guards shifted his stance subtly closer to Alice. Silas, standing like a statue near the rear door, nodded once. That was enough. No risk tonight. Nothing left to chance. Then came the real kicker, the city inspector from the random motel audit 3 weeks ago. He tried a smile, like we were two guys who once shared a smoke break. I looked him dead in the face, didn't say a word, and let him pass. He walked faster after that. A few minutes later, I stepped away and made my way to the Galachair's table. She wore a headset and a silver dress, and handled 3 conversations at once. I waited for her to look my way, then handed her a plain white envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Documentation," I said. "Call logs, screenshots, and vendor invoice IDs. You've got a city inspector on your guest list who's tied to a tennis circle connected to Tiffany Thompson. That circle arranged a fake complaint to sabotage my business. It's all in there." She opened the flap, flipped through the first page, and nodded. "And the copies?" "Filed with Gregory Morgan's attorney. Also submitted to the Municipal Ethics Office this morning. Just wanted you to have your own set. No surprises." She nodded again, quieter this time. "Appreciate the heads up." I walked away before she could thank me. It wasn't about gratitude. It was about traceability. The ride home was quiet for most of the trip. City lights blurred past the window, Silas driving steady like always. Alice finally broke the silence. "Thank you for not making a scene," she said, looking at me sideways. I shrugged. That was a scene, just a soft one. She smiled and slid her hand over mine. I didn't need anything louder. We didn't ask Gregory's investigator to keep us in the loop. He just did. Quiet emails, the occasional secure call. Lenore and Ronan got hit first. Civil suits. An attempted endangerment count tied to the alley stunt. The notary who leaked Gregory's will lost his license without a fight. The state board found the audit trail too clean, the motivation too obvious, and the payoff a little too big for just a mistake. I never sat in for the depositions. Didn't need to. Gregory's lawyer filled in the blanks. He laid it out like a grid, timestamps, payment logs, messages about clearing obstacles and securing assets. Ronan used burner phones but not enough VPN to matter. His arrogance was his tell. Harvey tried one more play before his stink left the walls for good. He used a bogus supplier contact, some shady third-party reseller based out of Nevada, and filed a backdated equipment order for 38 mini fridges, billed to our motel with my name forged at the bottom. To cover his tracks, he spun up a burner blog and started seeding fake reviews, claims of price gouging, said we refused discounts for veterans, called us a grift motel. Thing is, the supplier flagged it, said the signature didn't match, called our main line to confirm. Rafe caught the call, forwarded it straight to me. Our approval chain caught the fraud because I'd made it policy. No purchases over $50 without 2 sign-offs. We traced the IP from the fake blog to a public library Harvey liked to lurk in. When the DA got the whole case, camera footage, Site access logs, handwriting samples. It was like wrapping a snake in plastic. No room to wiggle? We didn't gloat, just got back to work. During the cold snap that hit the county 2 weeks later, we hosted a community breakfast for road crews. 49 plates served, 6 pots of coffee brewed. We cleared out the old meeting room, borrowed tables from a church 2 blocks over, and told everyone to eat until they couldn't. One of the county commissioners showed up unannounced, sat across from me while I refilled his mug and asked, "How does a kid like you run a place like this?" I told him the truth. Good people gave me a shot. All I had to do was not waste it. That Sunday, the local paper ran a small story in the community section. Local inn reboots under young general manager. Half a column, black and white photo, me standing under the new sign with a paintbrush in my hand. My foster mom clipped it out with kitchen scissors older than me. She mailed a copy to everyone in the Miller Christmas card circle. Said, "You made it past the mud. Don't forget the fence line." Tommy started sleeping longer stretches, thanks to Opal's miracle routine. Bath, blanket, sway, hum. She taught me how to burp him one afternoon, firm hand to my back, saying, "You're too gentle. Babies don't break that easy." I taught Silas how to fix the sticky door closer near the boiler room with just a pencil stub and some packing tape. He said I was wasted in management and born for mechanics. We fell into something like rhythm, a quiet kind. The kind where people knock before entering and say thank you without being told. I moved out of the laundry bunk and into a 2-bedroom apartment 5 blocks from Gregory's place. First floor, corner unit, second-hand couch I actually liked. Rafe took over my old bunk at the hotel and said the ghost in the dryer finally stopped whistling now that I was gone. "I'm not saying it missed you," he told me, "but it sure stopped making noise." Some nights I'd walk the lobby one last time before close, expecting to find something broken, stolen, or left behind. But more often than not, I found clean towels and soft light and nothing else. That kind of quiet? It's a shock. The good kind. The kind that makes you believe you earned it. I didn't get revenge in the way people usually want it. Nobody groveled. Nobody came crying. But I got something better. I got a full parking lot and a staff that went home with dignity. We had everyone over on a Tuesday because Tuesdays don't demand you earn them. No holiday, no anniversary. Just a night where nobody had a better reason not to be there. Gregory took the side chair by the hearth, slow and steady, but upright. Silas brought folding chairs without being asked. Opal came in with a casserole dish and that look that said she'd already spotted something I forgot to prep. Rafe showed up late with 2 bags of ice and one story he wasn't done telling. My foster folks parked behind the SUV like they owned the place. Mom wore her denim jacket with the embroidery she'd done back when I still believed county fairs fixed everything. Dad tipped his hat walking through the door like he was entering a church. The storm outside hadn't fully hit, but the wind had started slapping the windows like it had something to prove. Tommy slept in the bassinet, one sock off and one arm stretched like he was claiming space. The housekeepers who'd stayed for dinner were already halfway into seconds and laughing about something Silas mumbled while setting out plates. I grilled the chicken on the back porch. No smoke, no panic, no Tiffany Thompson with her tight smile and whispered judgment. Just good heat, clean cook, and enough spice to make Rafe say, "Okay, now you're showing off." Gregory leaned forward near the fire and started telling Rafe about selling car parts out of a Pontiac trunk in 1993. He had that voice that carried weight without volume. You could hear the old roads in him, the ones that didn't have signs but still got you where you needed to go. After dinner, Alice and I waited until the coffee was poured. She stood next to me at the counter while I passed around mugs. "We've got something to say," she said, loud enough to clear the room noise, but soft enough to keep it ours. "We're getting married this spring. Backyard, no registry, small ceremony. Come if you want, bring a chair." Nobody clapped. It was better than clapping. Silas smiled like someone just told him he could keep the change. Opal nodded once, then said, "I'll bring the pie." Rafe grinned and pointed a spoon at me. "I'll write a toast and regret it the second I open my mouth." Gregory raised his cup. Didn't speak, just raised it. I looked across the room at Dad Miller and called him what I should have years ago. "Hey, Dad." He turned like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You'd walk her, right? Porch to the apple tree? If she's good with it?" He didn't hesitate. "We can make our own tradition." That was the night. Nothing grand. No dramatic speeches or teary vows. Just people. Real ones. The kind who show up even when no one's watching. The storm finally broke around 9, rain tapping glass like a loose hand at the door. Everyone stayed another half hour, like leaving early might jinx it. When the last dish hit the rack, and the last laugh had faded into the carpet, the house got quiet the way a house should. Alice leaned into me while I dried a plate. Just leaned. "1 second, no words." "That's a long time when you've been cold before." Tommy snored in the bassinet like a tiny old man with nothing left to prove. "Hey, real quick before you scroll, can I ask you something personal? Who in your life gave you that one shot you didn't want to waste? And did you ever get to thank them for it? If you've got the hype feature, tapping it helps this story reach more people who need it. And if this one hit home, liking and subscribing means a lot. It's just one click. Drop a comment too, even just good story or your thoughts. I read everyone. Love you guys.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.